Mic is muted again. Muting the mic. Muting the mic. Everybody see we're muting the mic. Don't want to hear what the words have got to say to the people in the world. Okay, that's enough of that. Sorry. What's going on, everybody? We are here. The show's going to start in just a second. Do not fret. Do not panic. Big shout out to everybody in the chat here. We got Jason, Monica, and Jason again. What's going on? All right, just a little bit of Clubhouse today. If you've been following along, Canary Crime News Talk, current events, state of the world, this is not that. This is something entirely different, okay? Real ones get it. Real ones understand. If this is your first time here, or you're sitting here trying to watch a recording and you're like, what is going on here? It doesn't seem like the show has started. It's true. The show has not started yet. We're starting right now, okay? Don't panic. We're going now. You know how this goes, everybody. Remember, it is a call-in show, okay? So you got to call in. Don't even worry. Don't fret. You don't need to be some sort of super genius or UFO scientist who's going to get taken in their sleep because they showed themselves on a podcast. Don't worry. You don't even have to show yourself. You can do pure audio. Nobody will be able to lure you out of the house without your phone or your wallet or your Apple Watch with your hiking boots on to disappear without a trace. Okay? That can't happen with pure audio because we know everybody who calls into this show has spent hundreds of dollars on a subscription to a voice changing application. And so it might sound totally natural. It might sound like the same voice that you've heard from this caller forever. And that's because they are highly trained, highly coherent OPSEC operators who are here to both protect their identity as well as awaken the world to the secrets, just the secrets, just all the secrets, a lot of different kinds of secrets. I don't even want to pigeonhole them into one kind of secret. Okay. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to start the show. I'm going to put this art up on the screen like so. Look at that. Boom. Then I'm going to press this little jingle here. It's going to be cool. And then we'll start the show. Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Called it. We got a caller. We got a caller on the line here.
What's going on, everybody? You're welcome. This is Canary Cry Clubhouse, the world's favorite call-in show, where we will be divulging, uncovering, revealing, exposing, and debunking all the biggest secrets in UFO technology and America's nuclear program. Okay, you've heard recently in the news a dozen or more missing UFO researchers, military, aerospace, nuclear scientists. They're all disappearing without a trace. And I have a big surprise for everybody. That was all one big marketing ploy, a big stunt, right? Big stunt to gain attention for today's roundtable. I have calling in today all 11 plus 3 more unlisted scientists that nobody's noticed have disappeared yet. They will be coming on to talk about their life's work and why exactly they're unhappy with with the fact that they don't get enough opportunities to come on podcasts and talk about their favorite Pokemon and stuff like that. Okay. So it's all been one big stunt, one big PR move leading up to the start of this show. We got you. We got you. But stick around. There's no telling. I'm going to keep it a secret. There's no telling. I'm not even going to say, look, I'm not making any promises. Okay. I don't want to ruin the surprise. I'm just saying that it's possible It's possible. I don't know. I didn't plan anything. I didn't do it. Okay. Maybe they're off. Maybe they got taken by aliens and they're living in a UFO. Maybe the government snatched them up to put them in a deep underground military base to create anti-gravity technology. Perhaps it's some sort of interdimensional time traveling versions of themselves who came back to rescue them or take them to the future to solve the future's problems. I'm not saying which one it is, but if any of that was the case, they sure would enjoy an opportunity to call in to the world's favorite call-in show, Canary Clubhouse. So stick around, okay? Don't blink. Don't blink. Don't skip forward. Don't get distracted by washing the dishes or whatever you're doing because you might miss it. You might miss the culmination of the world's most exciting marketing psyop. But until that's the case, that is a good reminder that this is a call-in show, folks. We're going to do some call-ins. Maybe you want to talk to a disappeared scientist or UFO researcher. I don't know. But it does require people to call in. You'll notice in the description of this video, wherever you're looking at it, there's a little thing in the description that says call in link. And all you got to do is click that, answer a couple questions. It will put you into the back room where you can hang out. Maybe you're hanging out with a bunch of disappeared scientists. I don't know. I'm not making any promises. Wink. And then you just hang tight until it's time to take callers. I'll bring you up on the stage. It's going to be great. Big shout out to a text that just came in from 817. 817 says, praying for grace and wisdom, praying for all those in our path, because maybe we're the only ones praying for them. That's true. That is true. That's one of those things. I thankfully and gratefully have lived a life where people have told me and it's been part of the Christian culture that I've been in. Was a regular practice of my mother and father. Thank God I have you, best friends on the internet, who often let me know that you're praying for me, right? That you're beseeching the creator of the universe, requesting for his favor on me. And it's easy because, I'm 30-something years old now, been a Christian my entire life. It's easy for me not to really think about it. I mean, it's like a nice thing. Somebody tells you that, it's a very nice thing. It's easy to just kind of just keep going, right? Maybe you read a tweet or something. You go, oh, that's nice, thank you. And you just keep going. So I pray that God changes my heart, and I do not changes my heart, sustains my heart, my attitude, guides the path of my mind and my will, all these sorts of things, to really continue to feel and know and experience just how cool that is, right? Because in my experience with secular people, they kind of have this idea, and maybe it's probably not all of them, and maybe it's not a big deal or something, maybe whatever, but it's kind of a common thing where maybe even a lot of Christians think this too, I don't know, where the culture of saying like, I'll be praying for you, or I'm praying for you, someone's told them, the secular people, that's like an insult, right? That it's like an insult that you need prayer, or an insult like if you're telling somebody you're praying for them, you're really saying like, ooh, you need help, sister. Ugh. You know what I mean? I don't know if I'm describing this really well, but it's kind of it. You see it in TV, you see it in whatever, where the nasty church lady on the TV show will say like, "I'll be praying for you." And as part of the sort of edifice that the world has built, the facade to cover over Christians and Christianity, that's some sort of like insult. Like Christians think they're better than you. So they're going to pray for you because you're doing something wrong. And they want to let you know that they know that you're wrong and you're better than whatever. You get the point. But it occurs to me, excuse me, with this message. Oh, I just got kicked out. Hold on. Occurs to me when I read this message from 817 that there are people walking around in this world who have never been told that somebody is thinking of them, that somebody is talking about them with the creator of the universe to ask for their benefit in one way or another. That's hard for me to understand. That's hard for me. I'm kind of fascinated with just how much each and every person lives in almost an entirely different universe of experience. And sometimes I don't think it's fair. Like, so when I was younger, I'd be like, it is unfair that I don't get to experience everything that there is to experience. And I don't mean that in some sort of like hedonist way. But, when I started realizing the value of knowing that other people are not experiencing things in the same way you are, that helped me a lot. It helped me in relationships. It helped me in understanding, how to interact with people. It helped me not get offended when other people get offended. I mean, goodness gracious, doing a podcast, people are offended all the time at just stuff I wouldn't even think about. But remembering, and it's easy to forget even now, remembering that, oh, they're living in this entire other universe of perception and history and understanding. Even the words that they use might have different definitions in their mind, if not like solid, definitive definitions, at least different connotations. Like the phrase, "I'm praying for you," could be an insult or a slight to somebody. But for me, growing up how I did, being in the Christian community forever. I mean, some slight dalliances into, Rastafarianism or something like that. I've talked about that. But thank God I've gotten to hear my whole life, like, hey, I'm praying for you. Or can I pray for you? Or can you pray for me? Things like this. And a part of it, there's so many great things about that, of course. But one of the benefits of hearing that is just a general thoughtfulness, right? Oh, somebody else thought about me. And they thought about me enough that they beseeched the creator of the universe on my behalf. But it's very regular. It's easy, not regular like it happens every day, although I hope people pray for me every day. But, it's not uncommon, and I enjoy it a lot. I think it's just an incredible idea that someone out there at no request is praying for me. But there's people out there, and I know some of these people. I like to think that I can change their mind, but there's people out there who have no context. The only context for "I'll pray for you" or "I'm praying for you" is in a negative light. And then there's people who just never come in contact with that whenever. I know it's hard to believe, but there's people out there who have never heard the phrase, "I'm praying for you," or something. Now, there's a whole part of this topic that is like, well, I mean, you're not required to tell someone that you're praying for them. Like that doesn't That's not part of the process. You can pray for people without telling them. In fact, there's probably a lot of instances where it's better to pray for people without telling them. But what does it take? What's like the turning point? What's the what's the threshold? Now, what I guess I'm not suggesting is that we just walk up to random people on the street and say, "I'm praying for you," and then walk away. Although that could be kind of like a mysterious encounter, you know. And what if that person's like really having a hard time, something horrible happened in their life and they're just like suffering silently and they have no concept of prayer or, you know, reaching out to God or whatever, just like the loneliness, the helplessness that comes from being in some sort of crisis without knowledge or acknowledgement of, God. Like that can be hardcore, dude. And there's lots of people, pretty much everybody you see throughout your entire day, and maybe more, could be year for me, considering how little I go out in public. It's pretty well known. It is pretty general baseline thoughtfulness, right? For us as individuals, hopefully we grow up, we mature to a level where we stop mindlessly focusing on our own um, life, our own problems, our own thing. We are living in sort of an infantile understanding of the world where everything going on around us is for our benefit. And if it doesn't benefit us, then that means it's bad or something. Right. This is how children are. At least babies. When you're a baby, you have no concept of something happening in the world that isn't strictly directed towards you. Everything an infant comes in contact with is expected to somehow benefit them. Now, a lot of people go their entire lives and never realize that people around them are living their own experience and other people don't exist for their benefit. We call them TikTokers. Just kidding, TikTokers. But I mean, really, there's lots of different people we can envision in describing that. And it's one great part about being a believer or focusing our mind, will, and emotions on connecting with eternal things is it's a pretty effective curriculum to coming to the realization of just how many people around you have it pretty hard. And lots of them, I don't know, many of them have never heard the phrase, "I'm praying for you." It's never been spoken to them, right? Maybe they've, like I said, seen it on TV. Maybe they've heard it between people they know or something. But nobody's ever said it to them, at least in maybe an earnest way or something. Now, I have talked at length, too many lengths, about just how astounded I am that anybody who isn't born, and I mean this, I hope you understand. I know people, I've talked about this before, and I can go at length to try to explain myself here, but I just pray that, the Holy Spirit translates what I'm about to say into whatever meaning form that takes in your head to really communicate this. Been a Christian my whole life. While I have been dumb and strayed in various ways, I've never not been a Christian, never not sort of operated under the understanding that I have a direct, the ability to directly interact with God. And I have been surprised for decades and still am surprised. And I give God the glory for all of it, by the way. about what in the world exactly happens in someone to where they make that shift from total atheist, maybe not even explicitly atheist, but like secular materialist uh, view of the world to following Christ. It is nothing but an absolute miracle from my perspective, considering all the campaigns through history, considering all the psyops, considering all the money and powerful people in the world who spend billions, perhaps trillions of dollars to convince people that they don't need God. And that takes many, many forms, right? You could say almost the entire world is set up or at least leans towards convincing people that there is no God or they don't need God if he does exist. And that's why I love hearing people's testimony, because I consider it a 100% miracle, especially for adults, to find Christ or make the choice to follow Christ. And while it's easier for me to say that from my perspective, I'm just describing my perspective of seeing this, right? The reality is often that people give their lives to Christ because everything else has failed, because a series of bad choices and disasters outside of their control and years of failed experiments trying to fix themselves or fix their life or take control, be the god of their own life, really, I guess is what it comes down to. Years and years of painful experiences just to come to the conclusion that they are not God, that they're not in control as much as they'd like to be, which is sort of the natural human state. We know this from the garden to Babel to today. The natural human state, maybe the primary uh, downfall of humans, is that we have this drive to be God. And we often can fool ourselves into thinking we are God. And so, in that perspective, right? Okay, let's go back to the person who's insulted by hearing that you're praying for them. If you are somebody who's still in that structure where you are in the fallen state, which we all are, but you're embracing the fallen state, you embrace that you are the master of the universe, your universe, you embrace that there is no God because there's nobody more in control than you are, then hearing I'm praying for you, logically, you're basically hearing like, I'm gossiping about you. Because I am God, I'm talking about you behind your back. That's what it is. You're saying I'm talking about you behind your back. And someone who is in the mode of I am God, I am in control, there's no power above me, uh, doesn't like that, because you can't control what people tell you behind your back. So it's inherently threatening. When you're so focused and convinced that man is God, and somebody says, I'm praying for you, in your mind, that's just them talking about you behind your back. And usually I'm praying for you, that phrase often, not all the times, but often at least has the implication you need help or something wrong is going with you. You know, something about you needs intervention. So that can be very threatening because, of course, even those who have almost godlike control of their lives can't control what other people say about them. But I'm just setting up like montage or like a tableau, right, of this character. But the reality is, people don't always stay in that infantile position. And realistically, some point in their life, they come crashing down into the conclusion of, oh, I'm actually not God. And this usually happens after, it's like a country song. Their dog dies, their beer spills, their truck explodes, and their girl leaves them, right? That's usually what it takes for the natural man to come to the conclusion that, oh, I'm not actually God, huh? Oof. And that's very disturbing. It can be a very disturbing moment. And maybe that's where, in this very particular sliver of somebody's life, that hearing, I'm praying for you, initiates or challenges one of the assumptions that they're just now having to let go of, right? And hopefully, again, not recommending you just walk up to random people and say, I'm praying for you, although I have heard some, pretty heartwarming tales of that happening. Um, Usually it's best to say I'm praying for you after a conversation with that person and they share with you what's going on. And so when you say I'm praying for you, there's an understanding about what you're praying about, you know? And so why am I talking about this? 817 says praying for grace and wisdom, praying for all those in our path, because maybe we're the only ones praying for them. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think so. It's I'm kind of experiencing what 817 I'm experiencing and processing it sort of live here. So I'm trying to imagine myself as someone who has no one praying for them. And my heart begins to race a little bit. It feels kind of scary. Yes, it does. Even if I know it or not know it, I don't know. Knowing it or not knowing it is a totally different thing. But if I had like a TV screen where God could like give me messages and like I knew if a message came on this TV screen, it was like ultimate truth, right? Your little truth screen. Anything that shows up there is like universal, cosmic, eternal truth. It'd be really cool, actually. Um, I was watching that screen and it just scrolled by. No one is praying for you. Ah! No, that's terrifying. But the good news is anybody who doesn't have anyone who is praying for them, we can change that instantly. We as followers of Christ have the power. We don't have all power, but we have the power. Thank you, Lord, to change the cosmic, eternal, objective, universal truth, if that exists for someone and it says on their little screen, nobody's praying for you. That is something that we have direct power to change. And it's not often that we as humans, or even we as believers, have the ability to affect eternity in such a specific and acute way to change that little TV screen from no one is praying for you to someone is praying for you. That little change, even just in the person's own perspective, like for them to know that's an eternity of difference. That is an infinite amount of transformation. That is I don't know, the Big Bang, to put it in words that the secularists might understand. That is the Big Bang of eternal change in somebody's life. And, if we get a chance to tell them that's even better. Thank you, 817, for that text message. 484 just texted, says, I'm a mad scientist. They're after me. Well, you're in the right show there, 484. All missing nuclear scientists are encouraged to call in. And if you're a missing UFO, nuclear, or aerospace military scientist and you're listening to this show, just know I'm praying for you. You got someone on your side. 940 says, Patrick here. Shout out to Monica. I received the Canary Cry calendar for her the other day. She even added some other merch, including some bell pepper seeds. She even hand wrote my very nice note. So kind. Lord bless her. Monica, what a jewel of a Canarian is Monica. She had some extra stuff from multiple supply drops. She threw it out there, made it available to somebody who couldn't get it themselves. And that is some real Canarian love. And Monica, I'm praying for you. And if you have not yet, dear listener, joined the Canary Cry text message alert system, do it now. Text the word Canary to 877-740-3226. Again, just text the word Canary to 877-740-3226. And you'll get a text message from me before every show starts. And you can text me back at that number. I cannot answer you via text. It's very expensive. But you can send little messages or whatever, any questions or whatever, and I'll read them. Oftentimes I read them on the show when time and the Lord allows. Okie dokie. Where are we looking here? Okay. Yeah, beautiful. All right. Remember, this is a call-in show. We got a couple callers in the waiting room here. Just a reminder, when it comes to callers, we do run an invisible, silent 10-minute timer in the background. That is not a hard time for anybody. Nobody should stress about it, but it is just a way to make sure that we're able to fit in all the callers who want to call in. And if nobody wants to call in, then then the timer doesn't matter. But go down into the description of this video. You'll see it says call in link, has a little link there. You can either click it if it's hyperlinked or copy and paste it into a browser. It'll ask you a couple questions, put you into the back room. And look, you don't need to have any genius thing to talk about. You don't have to be a missing UFO scientist to call in, I guess is what I'm saying. Okay. Even if you just need a chance to say hi to somebody, have them say hi back. This is a very important part of the process. Okay. The Canary Cry weekly calendar is laid out in what I think is a very good cycle. Of course, we want to keep up what's going on in the world. We want to talk trippy stuff, deep stuff, but then we need a time to just fellowship. And that's what we're doing here. And it's just convenient for me that often simple fellowship turns into sort of life-changing, mind-blowing conversation. Okay. Well, first of all, to start off the calls here, we have a returning caller who we had a wonderful opportunity to talk with multiple times. You guys know him. You guys love him. And his name is Rod, and he's from Millennial Mustard Seed Podcast. Gonna bring him up on stage here. There he is. Rod, what's going on, buddy?
What's going on? Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yep, sound great. Look great. Got a cool lion poster in the background. Be strong and courageous. The rest of the
Yes.
text is very small. I can't read it, but I bet it's very inspiring and biblical.
For the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Yeah.
Booyah. Booyah. You hear that,
Strong and courageous. Hey, the whole
Miss?
praying for you thing is wild, man. Like when you just broke my mind. Like all the times like people have been like, I'm praying for you.
Yeah.
And I'm like in the gutter of life and I like physically don't look well. I just had
Mhm.
like flashbacks of like, oh my gosh, that was like in like street lingo, that was like disrespect. You know what I mean? Because like I pray for people, I don't say anything. I go pray in secret. But I do want to say, all right, it's not across the board to be taken as a negative thing.
Oh,
Because
I
yeah, I
don't
mean,
think it should be
I
taken as
think people have
negative
a
at
very hard
all.
posture.
I
But I
guess
think
what
that there's a Christianese end to it, Baz, where it is kind of like, well, my holy hygiene is clearly on the up and up, so I'll be praying for you,
you
stinky
know,
sinner. You know what I mean?
I understand the concept.
Oh, I love it.
I understand why people might, feel that way. Honestly, I even actually kinda refuse to feel that way. I think it is for me personally, even if somebody look, I think personally, every time somebody says they're praying for me, I take that as a positive 100%, take it to the bank, right? I think even if somebody is trying to insult me by saying they're praying for me because I obviously need it, even if they are saying that, I'm still taking it as a positive, baby, because even if, yeah, I don't have the scriptures in my head or in front of me right now, but I bet there's some pretty strong scriptural foundation that even if a bad person is praying for you, if they are indeed praying for your benefit, that's still that money still spends, baby.
Yeah, good
I do.
point.
And you
Yeah.
know what really ticks people off? If they're trying to be mean to you and they say, "I'm praying for you," as a way to slight you, and you genuinely take it as a positive thing, you just won. You just won the battle. God is on your
Exactly.
side. So, I don't know if I force myself to think this or if I do it as some sort of sneaky Christian ninja, Jedi mind trick or something, but even if I'm 100% positive that somebody is purposefully trying to insult me by saying they're praying for me, I take it as a blessing, man. I take it as a but I don't think
Yeah.
anybody has ever said, "I'm praying for you," as a slight outside of television or film. That's just my opinion. But I also did just say that even if somebody is doing that to me, I take it as a positive. So maybe this is a thing and I just don't know it because I've always ignored it. Who knows? But I also don't think it's happened outside of TV or film. If any,
Mhm.
this is my recommendation to you, everybody. If somebody says they're praying for you and a piece of you kind of twinges and you're like, oh, that
Mm.
was weird or whatever, just give it to God. Take it as a good thing. It's all good, baby. It's all good. Even if it's simply a psychological maneuver to win the altercation, boom, there you go.
Yeah, it's like the conversation with the receiving end thing, and it's I'm seeing it the same way as how us as receivers, the people who are giving the information, right? The title, I will pray for you, right? How you're receiving it has a lot to do with the condition of that individual's heart. So it's beautiful what you just depicted,
Oh,
right?
it's
And it's
everything.
like,
Being
well, yeah,
good
it's the same
receivers
thing as like when
Being
we're
a
in
good
ministry.
receiver, baby, that's what it's all
Yeah,
about.
be a good
From
receiver.
Christmas
Be
presents to birthday
huge
presents
deal.
to
Huge deal.
compliments to prayers.
It's
It's all in the receiving, baby.
it's super underrated, right? To I don't know, the whole parable with the stones in the field and the seed didn't grow up because stony soil. What if we are the ones tending the soil by
Mhm.
decisions,
Yeah, right.
right? By what we're allowing in eye gates, ear gates, things like that. Just saying, I'm not insinuating the verse says that, but I think it's pretty clear that how we decide to navigate can have a lot to do with what kind of position we are in ourselves to respond to the world around us. I find it even be interesting about, faith increases by hearing the word. If you go dig around in the Greek a little bit, that hearing, it means to lean into. It has a lot to do with like the structure of the side and the rib cage, and it fits in other places, but it means to lean into, to support into. It's not just like, oh, it goes in my ear, and I was like, oh, that's a cute Bible verse. It has to do with us opening ourselves up and allowing it to literally come in and rewire the things, man. So it's interesting. But as content creators, Baz, for the kingdom's sake, not just for content in general, the receiving end has been interesting for me to think about, right? Over all these years, like I'll produce a certain episode or kind of content and I'll feel giddy about it, excited, like, oh my God, this is going to help somebody. And it usually kind of falls flat on his face, or I'll get like an angry email. Like,
Yeah.
why did you have that person on? Or like, what are you trying to manipulate and do? And I'm like, oh my God, you just can't win, right? It doesn't matter what you do. And then there's
Right.
other times where it's like nonchalant. I don't plan anything, going with the flow, and God will breathe on something. And it becomes this like undisputable 10-time confirmation. God breathed on what you said, or the seed you planted here, or whatever. It doesn't even matter. Just something will come out of it. And I'm like, wow, how humbling is that?
Yeah.
Like we're
Yeah.
not God. We're lucky that he is partnering, and luck has nothing to do with it in the truest sense, but to actually understand and grapple with the fact that he's asking us to partner with him. Like he could like he's omnipresent, omnipotent, omnipotent. He could just snap of a finger, man. He could do it himself. But he's like, hey, do you hear what I've been putting on your heart lately? I've been exposing your heart to you. Yeah, there's certain things you shouldn't be doing. I need you to hear me. Like the fact that God does that with us in a quiet place. I think David said, like, who am I that the Lord knows me, that he's mindful of me, right?
Right.
It's crazy. It really is crazy. And so I think the important thing that I'm hearing from you, Baz, is in the beginning of your rant on this topic would be, we have a lot of responsibility as an individual to adjust our soil level.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a
It's on
great way to.
us more than it's on the billboards around the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a great
Mm.
way of putting it. And yeah, it's just another way of admitting and celebrating that we're not God, right? We get put in a life, we get put in a situation where our natural state, our natural fallen state, and it's celebrated, right? If you go out there and you're going through the world and you're working or you're doing this or you're doing that, and your attitude is confident that you're in control, that you are the master of your own universe, that that sort of vibe is celebrated by society. It's even celebrated by Christians. It's natural. It's like a part of our natural human bit. It's like we have this natural sensitivity, I think, to God, right? We have this
Yeah.
natural way of tuning into God, and we feel that pull, and that sense is getting activated, our whole lives, whether or not we pointed in the right direction or not. And so when somebody walks in the room and they are operating from this confidence of, I am God, I control the universe, anything I says goes, I can make it happen. There's a natural part of us, the part of us that is yearning for God, that sees that sort of aesthetic, superficial display, and it kind of pings our like looking for God radar, right? And I think that's why it's so we so often admire those people in that way, like, wow, there it is, there's that thing, there's the person in control, there's the person who can make it happen, there's the wow. Usually those people can also be like huge butt heads too, and so there's a lot of reason not to like them, and that's why that's why uh th- seeing other human beings in that with that God radar ultimately fails us and ultimately hurts us. And can have really long lasting consequences. If there's somebody that, your sort of God radar has identified, maybe it's a teacher or a parent, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's great. You don't even have to think they are God. I'm not saying you call Steve Jobs God or something, but whatever characteristics they're operating from is what draws us to that kind of attitude and that kind of person. And I think if we get stuck in that, you just spend your whole life admiring those people, bopping from person to person, using them as examples of how to live our lives. You read the Steve Jobs biography and then you apply it to your life. We're trying to learn from these sort of little G God men. And ultimately, it just leaves us flat on our butt. Like nothing, it's just horrible. Our life goes totally off the rails. We're feeling depressed. We can never live up, because again, we're trying to do it through our own power. And then, I think a lot of people go through that for a very long time until that you just finally, again, and you can't do it on your own. It is purely an act of God and the Holy Spirit working in your life that you finally come to the realization like, oh, I see what had me so attracted to all these people who act like their own gods is that I'm looking for God. Maybe I should just go to God. Okay, I can connect directly. I don't need to go through these celebrities or whatever. And
It's crazy.
worst case scenario, that takes us a very long time. Best case scenario, you're like me, you get born to pastors and then never quite have the guts to turn away from God or whatever. Where was I going with this? We were just talking about anyways.
Is anybody praying for the missing scientists?
Well, that's kind of what popped in my head earlier.
That's what I was thinking in the beginning of this.
Yeah, look, we've been covering the missing scientists since the very beginning. We've been covering missing UFO scientists for years, for 10 years or more.
Yeah.
And I don't think that I ever, at least on air, said, goodness gracious, this guy's missing. We should pray for him.
Yeah, and pray for his family too. So okay, let's lean into this real quick, just as an idea. I'm not saying that this is what happened, but let's say that this scientist or a number of scientists actually signed up for some, black label secret. You're really important. You got to disappear for a little while, but it'll all be worth it, the sacrifice. And some of these guys and gals are in their old age. They're, they're retired. So they're probably just got their Men in Black card, you know what I mean? And they're like, oh, wow. I'll leave my phone and my Apple Watch and go on this journey with you. There's some of those people that may have done that willingly. But that's still a deception regardless, right? So these people still need prayer. What about the wives, the daughters, the sons of these individuals, especially when they turn up murdered?
Right.
I don't know. I feel like genuine for me, I don't understand the four walls very well, although I'll talk big, on a podcast and I got all these great thoughts and you got to be a genius to be able to comment. No, you don't. In person, I'm pretty humble and timid. I sit quietly. I've sat quietly at the feet of more people than I can count. And I've learned from them over the 10 years I've been in quote unquote Christianity. I think the followers of the way is a little bit more pure. That's just my personal thing. It's no one else needs to recognize or agree with that. But there's something sacred about praying in secret, anyway, the scriptures have a lot to say about it. It's a good Bible study. But when you think about these scientists gone missing, so it's a fear narrative, in my opinion. People of importance are going missing, man. Another UFO guy, another investigator, another molecular biologist, scientist, you name it, whatever, right? And it's kind of like building some weird narrative where it's a Hegelian dialectic thing. They're going to try to problem, reaction, solution the whole entire world with a million messages and signals going on. I mean, come on. I listen to news talk. You guys are my only news analysis. There's so much going on. So there's a bit of fear tactic. Why are they choosing to share the missing scientist narrative with us. Why now? Hmm. Is, is the sarcasm palatable? Somebody, it's like, seriously? Well,
Yeah.
let's pray against that deception, but let's also do it from a pure place where it's not just like keyboard prayer. And I'm not insinuating anybody here is doing that, but like there's certain things that are happening right now that require a really humble, behind the scenes tone with our creator. And I'm hoping the producers, when you guys hit that button and you call in the producers, that's, my heart posture is thank God for those people. It was only a few weeks back. Me and you were talking on the phone off air, and I'm like, hey, ask the producers to pray for me. I just had a mega tree hit and smash my car and hit the house and just like threw our whole life for a loop, and I feel like a lot of the times the reason I'm able to still go is that there's faithful people out there that pray.
Yeah.
I feel
No,
like I'm
yeah.
the product of a private prayer many times.
Oh, for sure. No, this is my entire life is sustained by God and improved by the prayers, thankfully, of my friends and family, but also everybody on the internet who prays. Like, I am I am
Yes.
acutely aware that everything I have
Mm.
is like, it just makes no sense. I mean, my
Yeah.
life makes no sense, like, even the fact that these shows can keep on going, like, in a sort of material logic, it doesn't make any sense, right? It's totally outside of whatever, metrics that allow for somebody or some people to do this regularly, even if not for a living, even if just for, just whatever. The something you said, you know, something we've been talking about. I've been kind of ranting on it for a couple years. You and I have talked about it privately, but also on air. It harkens to the conversation I had with the Nephilim Death Squad guys, and it's something that seriously I'm very diligently trying to lean into God and pray and be sensitive, because we're in this world now where it's, we've seen it go from 2012, 14 years ago to now, and we're in this world where everybody, like, I don't even know what to call it now. Like, you can't even call it conspiracy theory, fringe. It's like mainstream skepticism kind of stuff. And the difference is now versus 10 years ago is it's like happening right in front of our faces, and we can have fun, and there's some value to like calling it out as it's happening, identifying it, analyzing it like we do on news talk. But then we've had the conversation of like, well, we are in a totally different world, a totally different time. It used to be that the very clear mission for us and people like us was just to raise awareness, right? Raise awareness of the elites, raise awareness of the Nephilim, raise awareness,
The good old days, Baz. That was the good old days, my friend.
right. And it was fun because like that was a pretty straightforward mission. And now we're in this age, and I'm kind of talking for the listener, I'm kind of talking about in the context of what are we as podcasters supposed to be doing? Do we just do another episode on the Nephilim? Like, does anybody need that? But I'm also talking about you, the listeners, the producers, because I know I try my best to also stay in audience mode, because it's really easy to do a podcast and kind of just focus on your podcast and not actually be an audience member of much. But I very purposefully, have organized my process for podcasting around being an audience member as much as I can. And so listening to other podcasts, dinking around in other communities, and that's very helpful for a lot of reasons, to do my job. But also, it's very valuable because if I put myself in the audience seat, and I think the question still is the same from that perspective. Wow, We see it happening around us. We're all very aware. We can get minute by minute updates on biblical prophecy unfolding in front of our eyes. There's really not a whole lot of scholarship or, theory that hasn't been presented on a major platform. There seems to be very little mysteries as to where we are and where it's going. It's quite clear now. They're not even hiding the direction that they're bringing the world and the spiritual realm, how the book ends. We all know this. And for me, I'll only speak for myself. Sometimes I'll find myself being an audience member to people making content about this stuff, simply almost, and I hope people hear me right, almost as just as entertainment. And not just entertainment as if it's superficial and not important, but just kind of doing it because I don't know what else to do about what's going on. I can I can learn more, I can listen more, I can analyze more, I can understand what's going on, more and more and more. But it's 2026 and time's running out. And what is there now to do? And then I'll jump back into podcaster seat and I go, what we are in a totally different atmosphere, a totally different world, like global situation, a totally different uh like mass consciousness or understanding about where we stand, from biblical prophecy and other perspectives. What in the world do we do? What is actually needed at this point? And at least when we have this conversation, we've had it, you and I, it always comes down to like, okay, it's time to start doing. And what is that doing? And it's still a mystery to me, by the way. But
Yes, to both of us,
it's
but
still
we're
a
putting our
mystery.
best foot forward in many ways.
Well, and until God reveals exactly what the doing is, and the doing will be different for everybody, I think. Everybody will have a different calling. But before then, I think, and I'm taking a really long route around this, so excuse me, everybody. But to bring it back, um, the missing scientists, and not once have I personally on air, I think, said, oh, let's pray and intercede for these missing scientists. And if that's not just like the basic level of action as believers in Christ, hearing about something, knowing about something, deeply analyzing something, and if we're not, I mean, I'm I'm not going to call it shame or guilt, but I'm processing right now here live in front of you the failure that is to have not said, let's do what we do best as Christians and pray and intercede, all in God's will, whatever God's will is for the missing scientist situation. And it's not necessarily that us praying is what will cause God's will to happen, because God's will happen with us or without us. And this is where
True.
there's a slight shift in understanding our place in the universe. We are called to pray. Our instinct should be, oh my gosh, there's missing scientists. Let's activate in the spirit. Let's pray. Let's start interacting with the unseen realm that we talk about and know about all the time. Boom, just as a simple process, but not because it is specifically our prayers that will save the scientists, because maybe that's not God's will, right? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. But even just praying, God, your will be done, is not necessarily to affect the future. And this is a really subtle thing that takes a long time and a lot of heartache to kind of try to orient ourselves to. But our prayers are not necessarily to try to affect the future. It is to affect our present and our present state and our present alignment. And that's why the prayer must always be, your will be done, we have this opportunity in prayer to express all sorts of things, our wants, our desires. God, we desire their safety. God, we desire to hear from them, to have them come on my podcast. God, we desire for their family to have comfort. God, we desire these things. And that's
Yeah.
always a part of it. But when Jesus taught us how to pray, it's ultimately, hey, I can desire a lot of things, but what I support and align myself with, God, is your will. Here's a list of things that I want to say about a situation and I desire for the world, but in the end, your will be done. And that is what that's not doing, is trying to twist God's arm to align the future with our will. It is us taking the opportunity to align ourselves with God's will. Because every time we say that, we want this, we want that, God do this, God do this, but your will be done, it's this sort of admission that we as humans want a lot of things from you, God. And here's the list of things that we want. And they may be good things. They may be things that God likes. They may be godly things that we want. But ultimately, that prayer, whether it changes the future or not, is to change us in the present now. And if we make it this far into, we're looking around, we're seeing the beast system form around us, we're seeing biblical prophecy just happen day by day, every day. We know how the book ends.
The things are happening.
We know what
Yes.
happens. We're sitting here
It's so
trembling, being
wild.
like, oh my gosh, the man of lawlessness is this, and the Antichrist is that. Lord, do these things. There's an incongruency between looking around and fretting of all this happening, or even just looking around and watching day by day, if we're not actively participating in aligning ourselves with the truth of what's happening, right? I mean, it's I don't know if there's some more eloquent saying that communicates this, but the paraphrase is like, we don't pray to change God's mind, we pray to change our mind. And if we're looking around trying to figure out like, okay, what do we all do next? I'm not saying that like praying is the whole thing, but there's nothing that'll come before that step. And, doing this corporately, reminding each other and remembering that it's not our job as Christians to pray and change the future. It's to pray and change ourselves, our hearts, and best case scenario, influence the hearts of others to align with what's ultimately in God's hands. But that's simultaneously so obvious to any Christian who will sit and think about it for a couple of seconds, but also so for some reason so elusive in the moment. So elusive
Well
when we
said.
go, there's another missing scientist. Oh no, what does this mean? What do we do? Well, there's only one thing to do, and that's pray so that we get aligned with God's will. Because if we spend all our time praying for our own version of the future, in the expectation that God's going to answer our prayers and change the future based on our desires, when we get to that future and it's aligned with God's desires but not with our desires, that that's like fruitless. There's a fruitlessness to that. And now we're just bummed that God didn't align the future with our will, when we should be celebrating that ultimately God's will is always done. Anyways, it takes me a while to try to get those thoughts out, and I don't even know if that necessarily communicates everything I feel in my heart, but I'll let the Holy Spirit do the rest of the translation.
It's wild. Yeah, I mean, wild times that we live in. And in the missing scientists, if the list was to continue to grow in the public space, I often do think, what is the purpose of them talking about missing scientists at the rate they've been, and obviously the information is traveling. Everyone's talking about it, but neglecting the conversation with maybe the martyrs that we see, if you are aware, open to it, that are taking place in Africa, or
Mhm.
even the people in your own country that are being sex trafficked, or that are being, you know, brutalized in many different ways. And so I think it's just an interesting, all around an interesting topic. I've heard people say, my mother said to me years and years ago, and many other people, like, "Oh, I had this dream last night, and I was praying for these people, and I was traveling to places I didn't know existed," right? Like some foreign lands in their dreams, and they're praying for people in those places, interceding and weeping and crying, and
Mhm.
speaking life over places. I've heard this numerous times over the years. Not like it's not a weekly thing, my God, but people have confided to me and said, "Hey, I just had this dream. I was in some nation or land somewhere. I don't know. It could have been Asia, could have been, India or whatever, or the Middle East. And, the people, they weren't super clear, but I was seeing large groups of people that were being affected. And I was there interceding, just saying the blood of Jesus, the blood of Jesus, freedom, liberty, and unlock them. I've heard this a number of times. And I thought, well, that's absolutely interesting. I really am interested in pursuing that, even topically, episode wise. I know I'm good friends with Vicky Joy Anderson, and she talks a lot about the dream stuff, and um, we've talked about Mall World and some things like that more recently, and there's other stuff to come. But you know, prayer is interesting because you can do it while you're wide awake. It's one of the things you have the choice to do on command. Like you could hear God nudge you and say, pray for that little old lady, or pray for this kid, and you can right away. But praying in your dreams, now I've experienced this a couple times, and this is weird, man. It's just, I'm not going to spend a lot of time trying to explain it, because it's weird enough where I don't know how to explain it. But I know I've had dreams where I've prayed for people. And I know that there's times where someone has been praying for me. I could feel it. The one time this happened. Yeah, oh my God. An old pastor's wife, she like sends me scriptures almost on a daily basis. Great woman of God. Kept in contact with him and her for many, many years. They have a church in Norristown, PA, right outside of Philly. And that was my original home church. But she'll send me scriptures all the time. And one day it was, I literally felt someone was praying for me. I felt it. I felt things shift in a moment's notice. And I'm not the kind of person that's super sensitive where it's like good morning, bad afternoon, awkward evening. Like typically my day starts a particular way and goes that direction unless something divinely intervenes and changes it. But I'm just sitting there and I literally felt anointing, and I could feel like prayer. It was a weird thing to try to explain. And I literally texted her and said, "Are you interceding and praying for me?" And she's like, "Well, I always am, but absolutely, you've been on my heart." And I was like, "I just knew in the spirit what you were doing. I felt that. Like, could you do that again on days that end with a Y?"
Mhm.
But it really does come up to, I think there's times where God allows us just to see glimmers or hints, or like the inside from certain times. And I think a pure heart of someone praying, everyone needs that in the corner. Earlier, I seen a comment, and let me just say a couple things real quick on some of the comments I did notice coming through. There was a lady earlier that said, "I'm praying for my husband. He's out here in this world. Who else is going to pray for him like I will?" And I was like really encouraged by reading that comment. I forget where
Mhm.
it is. I think that was on YouTube. And then it looks like my buddy Eric Allen, shout out to you, man. It looks like you're here from Chicagoland. 72 Allen. Thanks for all the comments and all the other cool comments of you guys in there. Doing sun ting is always better than doing no ting. A sun thing. Yeah, that's interesting. SON. Yeah, doing the sun's thing, which at the end of the day, we know exactly it's unarguable that our gentleness should be made known. It's unarguable that we're called to make disciples. You know, these are just, if you're a Christian, some of you listening may not be a Christian or you may not agree with the Bible, but from my perspective is like, it's those things hopefully are already happening without someone having to tell us or remind us of that. I love what you said about a half hour ago, Baz, where it was like, if someone says they're praying for me, I'm receiving that as like, we're on the up and up, baby. Like, regardless if it was supposed to be a negative slant or whatever, because I think that there's some church hurt that shows where people automatically assume every time someone says they're praying for me, it's like their holy hygiene's up and I'm a dirty sinner. So of course they would say that. But I think that's a personal individual problem because I've wrestled with that, right? Like where I'm like, I know my, secret sin and my conscience is horrified by the choices I made. So if somebody says, I'm praying for you, I almost feel like, oh my God, they must know what I did in the spirit and they're going to step in and intercede for me because I know I'm guilty, 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 right? And it's like, it's a process though. It is something that happens over a period of time. There's maturity that comes with it. And Basil, you said it the best. If someone says, I'm praying for you, it doesn't matter if they say it sarcastically or what the condition is, you are taking that as gold. Gold is gold. Okay. We're not trying to make lead out of gold here. Gold is gold. It's got value. Okay. But more precious than gold is the prayers of a righteous person. And we know that righteousness belongs to the one name that is given under heaven. And if that righteousness is working in and through you, that's a pretty powerful prayer.
Yeah. Amen. Man, you mentioned a couple of things. One thing you mentioned was Mall World and Dreams in the GATE program, and I'm happy to
Sorry,
report
I was bouncing around quite a bit.
No. There's a few things. I'm happy to report Liquid Bacon called in, and Liquid Bacon's been the guy who's called in, and we've had some conversations about the GATE program. So I see you there, Liquid Bacon. We're going to get you on the show here in a second. But, we've also, along with this sort of many converging parts of this conversation, the theme of like, what are we to do? This is something that we've talked about in the past. In fact, people might remember a few months ago, had you on the show, and we went off and got fired up like we tend to do. We both have this weakness where it's really easy for us to generate a sort of synergy and get fired up and start throwing stuff out there. And in the moment, we are sincere and excited about a really good idea that we have.
Great ideas.
And then, as is a lesson that we have to learn over and over and over, being who we are, that's not enough. We then have to actually do it and follow up, which is a hard thing to do, even harder when you're doing it with Buddy. But we do want to share. It's not necessarily an announcement, but it is. We're keeping everybody updated. It was about, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago. I think it was January. I don't know, somewhere around there. We were talking about, again, this idea of like, okay, so the time for like raising awareness, like we're all aware now. Once we're aware, what then? Well, what are we to do? We're at 2026. We're in this new phase of human history, and it feels like just talking about stuff that's not enough anymore. And we got super fired up, and plenty of people got super fired up with us. And the project was to find a new way to sort of equip and prepare and release whoever is out there who's listening, equip and prepare and release them to start the thing that God's put on their heart, that they feel very strongly they should do, that feels like it would fulfill a calling in their life, that they, and for us, it's generally in the context of doing a podcast or doing a show or doing some sort of media product, because, that's the era we live in. That's where a lot of stuff is done. And we got really jazzed up together and made this plan to start what we're now sort of calling a podcast boot camp and discipleship program, where
Ooh.
between both of us, we have, over 20 years, maybe 22 years of like deep in the trenches, blue collar podcasting through thick and thin, through several different
Through thick and thin. One more time. Through thick and thin.
yeah,
Hardship and deprivation, may I say.
through several different sort of viscosities of the difficulty of the body of water we're swimming in. And it's true that God is always raising up a new generation, and it's not just raising up the kids, although that's part of it, but in this case, a new generation of people to take the next step in what God wants to do, both in their lives and in the sort of information space. And we had a great live brainstorming session about what that would look like and what form that would take. And we asked anybody out there who is getting fired up along with us to raise their hand, to send in an email if they were feeling strongly and they knew in their life that now was the time and God had laid something on their heart and they're ready to actually execute, to get in contact with us. And a number of people did. And then 3 months went by. But I'm happy to report
Yeah.
that
Good
as
news.
as of yesterday, if you were one of the people who got in contact with us answering this call, you should have an email in your inbox somewhere with an invitation, an explanation, an invitation, and some other tations that you'll read if you find it. So it came from my email, basil.rosewater@gmail.com. So I don't, you know how it is with these platforms and us. They're all very choosy about who gets to receive what. So if you reached out earlier this year about wanting to be involved and you haven't stumbled across an email, search in your email box, your spam folder, your junk mail for something from me, from basil.rosewater@gmail.com. And you'll have all the instructions and the inspiration and the invitation to actually get going. And as of today, there's been about a third of the people who had reached out have answered the call. So this is sort of a live reminder and invitation that if you were one of the ones who reached out, the time is now. Seek it out. And if you did not receive an email from me, you can email us again, and we will
Absolutely.
make sure that you get the chance to follow through. If indeed that is what you feel called to, I'm telling you, this is like a Gideon's army situation. I do not care how few of you there are. If you're not 100% sold and committed to doing what God was calling you to do, at least a couple
Yeah.
months ago, it's okay for you to not respond. You don't have to be involved, but I don't want somebody to miss out just because Gmail doesn't like me sending out emails or something.
Exactly. So you guys, whether and Baz, I'll put this episode up on the MMS so we catch a couple listeners over there. I did add a couple people to that list. And if you guys did reach out to me or you reached out to Basil on that Canary Cry Clubhouse episode where we got razzled each other up, razzle dazzled each other, and called for people to come forward and say, send me, here I am. Well, like Basil said, about 1/3 of you have responded, and you guys are in you followed the links in that email. Let's put it that way. There's a private app that we've been communicating on, and the lessons are going to start unrolling. This is a podcast boot camp. This is to raise up literally an end time willing army, an army of willing participants who are going to go forth. They're going to do the things. It's going to be super important. It's going to be super cool. And we're excited about it. And so Baz, me and you actually just recorded about a 30-minute video for that class this morning. So you guys are also going to see a welcome video from me and Basil. And great things are happening. If you signed up, now's the time. If you didn't get the email, you need to email Basil. You need to email me. You can email me at mmseed, SEED, at proton.me. Get a hold of us. Let us know what's going on. And if you're listening going, holy smokes, I missed an opportunity. Yeah, you did. But there might be a round two. Okay. There might be another time in the future where me and your best buddy Basil carve out the time. We put in the work. We get creative. We actually follow through with what we said we were going to do. And there may be another class in the future. So don't be afraid to put that on the back burner and say, hey, I want to do something like that someday. But guess what? If you feel led to pray for me and Baz as we head partnering a podcast boot camp discipleship program, prayers are welcomed. Real prayers, actual prayers. We don't want to hear or see in any of the comments, no one is praying for you. That is not what we want. We want producers to partner with us as we're growing and we're learning through this process and we're stretching ourselves. And to be honest with you, it's probably not the best time for any of our situations to put on more of a workload, but that is exactly what we found ourselves doing because we believe in you, dear listener, who has the calling. And just as a caveat, before I pass it back to Baz and he continues his business here, I was just one guy in 2017 working in a factory outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, listening to Basil and Gons on Canary Cry Radio, the original show, which I'd stumbled upon, and they were planting seeds. And I'm going, oh my God, I'm not alone. And this is important. And I believed in what they were saying. And I secretly prayed for them more times than I can count. And years later, my best buddy Basil really is my best buddy Basil because he really is everyone's best buddy. So God can do some things, people. He's the one who opens doors that no man can close. If you signed up, be excited. If you're hearing my voice right now and you haven't gotten the email and you want to get that email, reach out to us. We're literally a message away. Best buddy Baz, it's always an honor to spend time with you, brother.
Yeah, amen, man. And I'm excited. I mean, one thing that, again, anybody can Google how to make a podcast and get a nice step-by-step list from Google or AI or anything, right? So the technical, the process, all that stuff, it will be included. But what we're really hoping to do is raise up an ecosystem of people who are answering the call that God put on them. And also, like I said, create that community, that ecosystem, because one thing that a lot of people miss when they try to start a podcast, and we had to learn this the hard way, is that there, for so many reasons, both explicable and inexplicable, having, again, a sort of Gideon's army, having a ecosystem of people all working towards the goal that God has them towards, is invaluable. It's impossible to really thrive in so many things in life alone, right? It takes one another to stand near each other, to provide support to one another, even if it's just whatever, even if it's just moral support, although it's going to be. So this isn't just about starting a podcast, but it's about joining and creating a community and ecosystem of people who are all geared towards answering that call in their life. So I'm excited. And, when the thing is over, we'll have a bunch new, fresh people raised up in the community. And we can't wait to share that with the rest of you. So everybody be praying for that whole thing. Yeah, man. Yeah. I love what you said too about, like, this is not a good time. Like, even if you just look around in the world, like each and every one of us,
No, it's not.
we're all, and this is what the value for value index tells me every episode. But we all have these things in our life. We're looking around, we're looking at the world, we're looking at our current situation. We're like, it's just not really a good time. Got a lot going on, just kind of holding on, just kind of keeping it going. And that's where the sort of inexplicable of God's people starts to shine, because in the natural, the you and I, Rod, we're looking around, we're like, ooh, we're kind of maxed out, like money, the economy is pretty
Looking kind of
brutal.
dangerous over here.
I broke my foot, a tree fell on your house.
On my car, my house, you're laid up with a brace on your foot. You can't really get around. It seems like the perfect time to be like, what would another 4 months be? It's already been 3 or 4 months. Let's make them wait a little longer, right? We
In the
talked about that.
natural, it's
In the
not time
natural.
to add any work to the workload.
No.
But that's exactly when the sort of upside down pyramid that is the kingdom of God really shines, because
This is true.
when you make the choice, the illogical, by the logic of the world, it is illogical to try to start something new, to raise something up, especially something that's not monetized. This is not, I mean,
Fact.
come on, let's be
Yeah,
real.
we're not
This is not
we're not
monetized.
monetizing this. This
It's
is
not, yes, this isn't going to pay any bills or anything.
passion and compassion
But
and love for our community is what's driving this forward.
And as I've talked about recently on the show, the logic of the world versus the logos of the universe. And the logos that made the world and sustains it and is our wisdom and salvation works on an entirely different standard than the
Come on,
logic
that's so good.
of
Like,
the
come
world.
on.
And the reason, if we're even looking for one simple reason why this might be the case, is because if and when this succeeds in its most glorious forms, that is according to God's will, it can the glory and the credit can only be given to God. There will be no credit for anyone. There will be no glory for anyone. This is not by, any master stroke or strategy of Rod or I, or even the podcasters who are joining. It is purely an act of God to raise up what he's doing here. And that's what we're looking forward to. That's what we're standing in truth for. And that's why we move forward. And I'll ask the prayers of everyone else here listening as well, because the good news is, pray into this, support this, because by the end of it, you're going to have a whole bunch of really awesome, God-loving, kingdom-serving podcasts available for you. And I mean, come on, that's it, man.
And some of these might be ministries, right? And you guys in the communities who have friends who are starting this show, hey, you might land yourself being interviewed or being on a conversation yourself within the very community that you've so faithfully supported and partnered with through time, talents, and treasures of various kinds over the years. This is an exciting thing because the Bible verse comes to mind. It's not by strength, it's not by might, but by the Spirit. And so we're giving room, we're being sensitive to what the Spirit said, and we're following through with it at what seems to be like the worst possible time, but we're following through, committed.
Amen. Yeah.
You guys out there are literally being raised up in your generation with all of your uniqueness and powerful stories and testimonies and things yet to come to the light that are going to spur each other on. Absolutely amazing. Yeah.
Amen.
Just love
Amen.
it. Yeah.
So there you go. If you reached out a couple months ago, check your email. If you don't have something from me, just let me know and we'll make sure to get you hooked up. And everybody stay in prayer. Rod, thanks for sticking around, man. Really amazing to talk to you again. We had a nice big chunk here. We have liquid, luckily this was a pretty light day on callers, so we didn't necessarily kick anybody out, so that's good. We do have Liquid Bacon hanging out in the back room. Gonna get to chat with him. Are you gonna be sticking around? Are you good? You gotta
I'll
go get a
stick around
treat out
for Liquid Bacon and just kind of hang out, and I'll
All right, yeah.
probably just usher myself out here, maybe like 20 minutes ish.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah,
Cool.
there we go. All right, let's take a look. We got Rod hanging out on the wings here, and we got Liquid Bacons. Liquid Bacons. He added an S. Let's bring him up, see how he's doing. Liquid Bacons, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Hanging in
What's
there,
up,
feeling
man?
good.
Liquid
Yeah,
Bacon? What's
you're
going on?
totally cool to good stuff. You're totally welcome to join in, Rod, if you like, I thought you were gonna hang out in the back, but yeah, I just wanted to say thanks both of you guys. Super bravo. That is cool with whatever the heck you guys are talking about. I think I understand some of what you were talking about. But it sounds absolutely amazing. I know with what I think I understand of what you guys were talking about, I super need that kind of thing in my life. I don't know if it's classes, as in you guys are going to be talking stuff and teaching people, or training people to do like podcasting stuff. All I know is that what's prevented me from being more active in almost everything in my life. I mean, even interacting with the Canarium. I mean, I've been listening to Canary Cry stuff for almost as long as, well, I mean, crap, ever since Age of Deceit came out.
Yeah.
That was 2011.
Mhm.
And so been a super giga moocher ever since and all that. But I guess in the spirit of becoming the solution, I'd totally love to hear the demooching thing, because I figured out how to use Venmo, and so
You
wanted to say
figured
thank you
it out.
guys. Yeah, so wanted to say thank you guys for everything you guys have done, and all glory and praise be to God and stuff. But anyways, what was either of your guys' email so that I can send a email, or you guys can text it to me or something in the chat?
Yeah, no. So mine, you can send it to canarycryradio@gmail.com if you want.
Okay, cool.
The email came out from basil.rosewater@gmail.com. That is just my other email. So yeah, you can just send something there, and that'll put it on the record there for you.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Cool. All right. Well, let me see. I wrote down some notes, which was a improvement.
Hey, look at you
let me
go.
see. Yeah. I just don't know where to start with them, because I wanted to pick, I guess, either of your brains at this point on either stuff with. Actually, first off, I wanted to say thanks for talking about that Vicky Joy CCR episode. That was super, super helpful to me because she talked about scrupulosity. I've had that ever since I was a kid. And with a lot of stuff, just like with Gate and family dynamic, like almost like birthed that stuff into me. And I don't know if that goes hand in hand with all the hemi-syncy stuff, to where it predispositions a person, to have, I don't know, an extra layer of spiritual influence over a person. Most likely it's going to be in the dark aspect. That influences a person, but with people who go through Gate, I mean, it goes across the board that they end up having cluster B personality types,
Right.
OCD, depression, all that other stuff, and God made our brains to operate on like two different wavelengths, left and right hemisphere, and that could be a huge natural defense against them being synced up to either the same, or brought down to the same, to a level to where they can be more susceptible for spiritual attack and everything, which I don't
Yeah.
know,
You know,
through
you
me
know,
looking. Yeah.
you're mentioning a few things, and just in case somebody out there, doesn't kind of know the words, of course, we've been talking about the context of the GATE program, a potentially super secret government sort of mind control, almost MK Ultra like program that was in elementary schools, like back in the 90s, early 2000s, and of course before. And you're talking about, when you say left right hemisphere, of course, we know that's how God sort of created our brains. But hemisync is this either leaked or declassified concept that came from the CIA, who, of course, had done all this sort of research on consciousness and the nature of reality and these sorts of things. And they came out with this idea of hemisync, of, hey, the key to astral travel, the key to whatever, manifesting reality, the key to this and that, remember, in their context, it's the key of using psychic powers and astral travel, like, to benefit the government, like for the intelligence
Yeah.
community. But it involves, through all sorts of different ways, syncing up your left and right brain. So they're both activated at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, these questions about things like the GATE program, these weird things, it's very interesting. And, I want to try to stay healthily skeptical as much as possible. But the
Yeah.
interesting thing is, the more people talk about it and the more people remember it out loud to one another, it seems to sort of like unlock memories from people who, because like we talked last time, I really didn't have I was in the GATE program kind of in a funny way. I didn't pass the test, but like somebody was like, no, you gotta take this kid. He's got promise. And so they put me in there, and I really didn't have a ton of memories about the program until we started talking about it. And then,
Interesting.
kind of more and more comes to. And you're on this, thankfully, you're on this journey as well, exploring that in yourself. And you're bringing it to the show, keeping us posted on the journey of a post-GATE program government experiment.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And there's a lot. Oh, sorry.
no, sorry, go ahead. I was going to try to bring you back to what you were saying.
Yeah. And it's very odd in my situation because there's so many things to talk about. I don't really know where to start. And
Yeah.
I know my brain wasn't like this, um, before a lot of the GATE stuff, like as in, if I'm any kind of intelligent or whatever, I had that when I was a kid. Then going through the process, my intelligence, I guess, waned a little.
Yeah.
And then I became more scatterbrained. And so it's a shame because I have all the information. It's just jumbled a bit, but
Yeah.
that's common for anyone who's gone through the ringer with PTSD and stuff. But I guess where to start on any of my chicken scratch notes is to share a couple stories and see if this triggers any of your memories, because it is common with GATE kids when they realize some of the, I guess, possible more common memories that some can pick out once they hear it. I remember when I was a kid. Actually, do you remember when you were a kid that when you were around lights, maybe even street lights down the street, and
Uh-huh.
when it was dark, when it was dark, they started to flicker the closer you got near them, so much to the extent that it even blew them out, and you weren't doing anything.
It would happen all the time. And
Aha!
it's not like they were just sketchy street lights too.
Yeah.
Mine, I remember it was less the flickering, but it would
Mhm.
be like there'd be a whole street of street lights, and
Mhm.
the lights come on. Oh no, I got to get home before the street
Yep.
lights come on. I got to go home. And so I'm
Same.
cruising down this row of streetlights, and they're turning off like exactly as I'm getting to them. Like
Same.
walking, hustling, maybe I'm on my bike or something. It happened so reliably that I thought they were designed to turn off when people got to them.
That's crazy.
You know, like we
Yeah.
try to
That's
figure out how the world
wild.
works as a kid. And I remember having a conversation with I think it was my buddy in what grade were we in? I forget what grade it was, but I was kind of question. What did he say? He said something to the effect of like, "Oh, I got to be home by the time the street lights turn on." And as a joke, I was like, "Yeah, that's why." They turn off when I'm late to get home. Like they turn off as I go so I can tell my mom that they weren't on, or like something like that. And he just looked at me like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, they turn off when you walk under them." He's like, "What are you talking about?" And
Yeah.
that was the first time. No, I didn't think anything funny was going on, but I was just like, "Okay, is that all right?" I just kind of felt dumb for a second, just moved on. But
Yeah. And maybe in a roundabout way trying to get like some confirmation with it as well.
yeah, maybe that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it was kind of freaking me out and was like,
Yeah.
"This is
Well, I've
normal
done that.
for everybody, right?"
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I'm surprised that it matched so instantly. That was one thing that you would remember. But yeah, that was a big one for me too. My story with it is that you all right, make sure you come home before the lights come on or when the lights come on. Okay, so I do that. So all the other days I did that, but maybe I was staying at a friend's house late, and I end up coming home late, and daylight saving time, the lights are on, whatever. So I'm walking down the street, and as I pass, and even a little bit before I got them, they got there, they start flickering, like dimming and flickering, and then as I get closer, the flickering gets more and more, and I think I got to like either almost underneath one, but under one, and it completely blew it out, not like sparks, but it died.
Yeah,
And I'm
right.
like, oh crap, that sucks. And I'm like, all right, well, I should get home. And so I got home, and the light stayed dead for like I think a week or two. Like nobody came by to fix it. And I'm like, oh, all right, well, that sucks. I hope I didn't do it. And it's weird and all that. And then lo and behold, one of the days as I'm walking from school to home, I see a guy up on a huge ladder thing working on the street light. And then I walk by him, and I'm like, hey, are you here fixing the light? And then he's like, yeah. And then I asked him, why'd the light go out? And then he said, it's like, well, there's one of those kids that lives on this block.
No
And
way.
then, no, absolutely. And then I'm like, and so I was kind of confused about the answer that he gave. But then I'm like, oh crap, I hope he doesn't think it's me. And then I asked him, it's like, well, how much longer till it gets fixed? And then he's like, well, I just finished it and everything. Have a good day or whatever. And then and I'm like, dang. And so I think I was probably in second grade. I don't think I was in third. I was like either in first or second grade when that happened, but I'm thinking second. And then I'm like, well, dang. And then I went home and then didn't really think of anything other than that because lights affected me like that. And I guess a side issue with it all, I'm doing my best not to tangent myself, but I mean, all this phenomenon, we've seen it in Stranger Things and all that stuff. Like Elle blows like all these lights out when she's pissed off or whatever.
Yeah.
And whatever phenomenon's attached to that, I wasn't doing anything. I was walking by it, I also know I was given a lot of drugs when I was a kid, not knowing it. Mainly, well, either from the GATE program or from my Catholic Eastern Star grandma.
Oh yeah.
And Yeah, and so and other people that entered my life who let me see, somehow entered my life and then gave me stuff that was wrapped in food, and I shouldn't accept stuff from strangers, but then lo and behold, bad stuff happened. But let me see. Oh man, I'm trying not
But
to lose myself
Can
with
I
things.
say
no,
two
while
things real
while
quick
you,
though?
what's that,
Just
Oh,
Rod?
just real quick. I want to liquid bacons. Could you please just email me?
oh yeah,
And
totally.
I have a couple questions that'll overlap. I don't want to take the time now or change the direction of the conversation.
Yeah,
But I'm very interested in what you're saying, and I think that there's always something there's always something stranger going on than first glance.
yeah,
Um, and then I do want to take off to be respectful because my little one, uh, the cutest kid in the world, just showed his face on screen a couple minutes back, and he's kind of been
nice.
breaking out of his temporary hangout while Daddy does something
Gotcha.
situation. So I'm gonna jump out. I was hoping to not have to do that mid conversation, but please, Liquid Bacons, email me
Okay,
mmseed seed at proton.me,
okay.
and I'll
It's
put it in.
M seed.
Yeah, mmseed
Oh, two M's.
seed. Yeah,
Cool.
two M's for like millennial mustard seed. But
Nice.
please email me just because there's a couple things. And Vicky does. Vicky Joy Anderson, she just was on Canary Cry Radio recently. I had seen a
Yeah,
couple people comment saying, "Oh my God, that was the best episode ever. I watched
yeah,
it 2 times in a row."
yeah.
There was a couple people that were saying some interesting stuff in the comments about that. So great,
It was helpful
great
to me
feedback.
too.
Um, but there's a couple things she does. Like she has some like personal things where we can get together on like a time slot and talk with her, and she helps minister in this area. But there's things that you're saying that are super interesting. I'd like to pick your brain on. So with that being said,
Yeah.
Baz, I'm going to scoot, man.
Yeah, buddy.
Much love and respect to the whole community, and I will see you guys, talk to all of you in the near future. Take care.
Take it easy, buddy.
Cool.
Talk to you
God
soon.
bless, Rod.
One
Awesome.
one funny thing just to mention, and then you take us to your next thing or whatever whatever your notes got there. The
Okay.
Just in the movie of my mind when you're telling the story about the guy who's up there changing the street light, and
Yeah.
Scott tells you like, it went out again. Scott, one of those kids in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
In the movie version, that would be like, some CIA guy or like some operative from the gate program whose job is to like go out and replace all the street lights because they know where all these kids live and they're like trying to keep everything low key or something.
Yeah. And
Uh,
I also didn't think of it in that layer, but yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. There was another suspicion in a later story where I thought that was the case as well. Good
yeah,
point.
the infrastructure that it takes for them to do so many of these crazy things is insane. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I guess to piggyback off of that layer of thing, I was going to go to one story right after that, but I think I'll go to another story with that kind of thing of having these agents, certain layer of coverage to do what they need to do to maintain normalcy, I guess you can say, for the rest of society. All right, so I was given, and I think this was common with different gate kids, that yes, you were given the pink drinks, at school for whatever reason. But depending on whatever the reason is, a gate kid could also be given a drink to be given at home for a certain period of time, whether it's a week or two or something. And the parent would be as like, hey, with the kid with testing or with not testing, but they'd say whatever nicer word. if you put this in, in milk or in this drink and everything like that, it should help good results. It increase intelligence, whatever they're given to the parents.
Right.
But the parents would give whatever that drink to the kid when they're at home for whatever time period. And so I remember my mom telling me, it's like, hey, they were telling me at school that to give you this one drink, put this in your food and everything. It's with, school program you're with, blah, 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 blah. And then I'm like, okay, when do I get it or something? And then she's like, well, I put it in your food, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, oh, okay. And so for what is weird is that with that memory, I don't know if it's the very same night, but it seems to fit in the sparse memory that like it's categorized extremely near. When I was in bed. It's not in this instance, but remember when you said that you were like, you were sleeping, but then you're like inches away from the popcorn ceiling and stuff, looking up at it. Okay, yeah. So I have memories of that too, and also flying and all this other stuff like that. But say again.
I said, "Oh, really? That's
yeah. But in this instance with the drink, I'm sleeping, and when I was a kid, Mom said, "It's like, all right. If there's any evil spirits, stuff like that, rebuke it in Jesus Christ's name." And think of God and draw close to him and everything like that, and God will protect you, sort of thing. So Mom told me that. And so I'm sleeping, and just somewhere in my spirit, I'm feeling like some weird darkness that's kind of like creeping in, just around, I'm just sensing. And then I'm like, all right, God, there's some weird crap or something, and so I'm like praying and, drawing close to God, but I can tell that there's some weird, bad juju junk going on. And there's a weird light that's outside my window. It seems blue. But actually, like, there was like a weird dark stuff that's seeming, around in however far I can sense where it could be. And then what's weird too is that I can tell in my house, like I'm sleeping, everything's quiet. But what's weird is that I can kind of hear and sense that there's a car that's slowly pulling up to the curb in the front of my house and stops and it's just sitting there. And I don't know what it is, but it's like coinciding with this weird spiritual funkiness. And I'm just praying and, trying to stay close to God, and I can sense where weird junk is. And
you sort of sense the car. You don't see or hear the car.
I don't see it. Like, I'm in the middle of the house away from the street. So there's like a couple rooms from it. But as far as from the street, there is like the backyard's on the side of the house and where the street would be in the front. And so it's like I just kind of heard and sensed that a car was like slowly, because I can kind of hear it,
Got it.
But I could like sense that it's there and that it's parked. And then I see like this, like at whatever point through this sort of thing, there's like a blue light that I can sense outside the window or go and I see. But the focus is like, it seems like there's where the bad stuff is that I'm sensing, which is over off to, okay, the car, let's just say the car's on the south side of my house. The side of my room is on the east side. The bad sensing stuff is on the west side. And so in the windows on the east side where my room is facing, and there's kind of like blue light or something that I can kind of see through the window, but I'm not looking because I'm still laying in bed. And then and so after a while, I'm still like growing, like just drawing near to God. And I can tell there's bad stuff, but I wasn't scared and I felt secure in God. And then I'm just praying that, all this stuff would go away, and then God would take it away, all that stuff. And then I go over and there's low light in my house, and I think there's like a night light that's in the hallway. And so I go over and I'm looking at the crack underneath my door, and there's like very, very, very thin legs. Like, I have a sister that's younger than me, like 1 year. Her legs are not that thin. There's like two thin legs that's like walking, like kind of like right in front of my door. And it's not even like the light's at a weird angle to where it would thin out whatever it's sort of shining on, you know.
Okay.
It's super thin. It's like 1/3 of the size of my 6-year-old sister's legs, kind of thing. And so it was
Okay.
walking, yeah, and so it was walking there, and I don't know what it was. Um, and then I'm like, is this like aliens or something, you know? Um, but anyway, so I see it there, and it's walking. The two legs are kind of walking back and forth because I can see the light in the shadow from where the legs are underneath the door. And it was there a while, but then that all happened, you know, for however long, and then I just kept praying, and then like I rebuked it all away after a while, and then it ended up going away. Um, and so that was cool. So I don't know if that was like a neat. I don't know if that was aliens. I don't know if it was some kind of other demon thing. I don't know if it was some kind of lucid dreaming, but I don't think it was lucid dreaming. Like, I was pretty awake with it. I
Right.
don't know what it was, but I know it wasn't my 6-year-old sister, and I know it wasn't like my less than a year old brother.
Yeah, that's
um,
tricky. What do you think the car was? Do you think the car was like Men in Black, like
um,
coming to check out the alien visit, or what do you think that was?
well, what it seemed to me, I guess, in hindsight, especially through other times in my life, there were people that contacted me past, either outside of the GATE program during school. So extracurricular visits, you know,
Yeah.
whether I
Okay.
was actually in school or not, just throughout my life. And so I would not be surprised. And this is all speculative. I didn't stop and go and ask who anybody was and everything, you know, but
Right.
it is common that from other people's accounts that, you know, kids in GATE get contacted by, whether it be, you know, government agents or whatever sort of agency during the time that they're in there, and also after, whether it be
Yeah.
recruiters, whether it be people who are handling, you know, anything like that, you
Yeah,
know. Uh,
following up, it could almost, they don't even have to say like we're from the CIA. It could just be like,
yeah,
yeah, we're a development coordinator for the GATE program or for the school, and he's doing so
yeah,
good. We want to see, whatever. I don't know what they do, but
yeah,
that's
the one that, oh,
I
yeah, and there
definitely.
wasn't, oh,
No, I
I'm
was just
sorry.
gonna say, as of now, I don't recall if there's anybody coming to check up on me or not. I might have to ask my mom, see what she has to say about it.
Yeah, and see if she remembers any names of any teachers, because for some reason, with the exception of, well, I don't even. All right, crap. With an exception I have in mind,
Okay.
um, there nobody that I've met, and it's very common, very very common, that nobody can remember what the teachers look like and their names. And so I don't, but a person I know does remember one, and when she Googled that name, it was like the first name that popped up, tying it to the GATE program and everything. And then like a bit of other weird stuff. But anyways, my thoughts on the people that drove up to the car. I'm thinking they're people that were involved with GATE, who obviously have government ties, who if there was an alien sort of thing, I think it's spiritual in nature, because why would they care about the name of Jesus and not do an
Yeah,
abduction
that's
kind of thing?
right.
Um, and it also very well could be tied to the whole phenomenon of, if you're in GATE and the whole thing is, if either the astral projection, you know, sort of thing is involved, or however it works with which there's a dynamic within like the whole mall world thing that I don't know how to explain. So I'm not going to try because I have it in my head. I just don't know how to words it.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
but having agents that are involved with Gate, being near the kids in Gate with the astral projection and incorporating this sort of dreamscape thing, which I think there's a DARPA technology that that involves, I think, something with manipulating people's dreams, even the structure of it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I don't know if you know the name of it or something, but it's like you can create a mall world, and then the person in the dream can kind of go in that. And so if it's very common with gate kids, people could be in a sense hosting this kind of dreamscape and then study them through it. And
Yeah,
then there's
kind of like
probably a
a
supernatural. Oh, say
cooperative
again.
dreaming kind of thing, like a
Y-
cooperative dreaming kind of situation.
Yeah, and that's not even speaking with all the spiritual elements with it too, because when I
Right.
was in mall world and there's supposed to be these like infinite stairs going up and down, like infinite levels, or at least just very far to where it doesn't seem like there's an end or something. One of these times when I realized I was dreaming and I sensed with whatever was kind of monitoring or studying me, it realized that I was realizing, and I'm going up this staircase or this escalator up, and then it's like, oh, don't you? Oh, but he's not supposed to talk, and then I kind of like old school like cartoon, the still shot, kind of pull myself up like. I think a Simpsons episode did that once, and it was pretty comical. And so when I did that, I brought myself out of frame, and then I woke up, and I'm like, all right, that was something, you know.
Crazy. Yeah.
but it's common that once you realize you're in mall world and you realize that you're dreaming, they don't want you breaking from the being immersed in it, I guess.
Right.
And who
Breaking
knows if that. Yeah, so it's I don't know, like it ruins the data or something. I don't know, or the influence, or the conditioning and grooming they want to do on you. I don't know. But
Yeah. No, well, it's
but
probably, I mean, I could see it. Yes, if you become aware and conscious, it kind of sabotages the subconscious work that they're trying to do. There's
yes,
sort of
yes.
subconscious programming that is really the control mechanism that they might be trying to influence or whatever. Because of course, they don't want to just make a bunch of whatever psychic kids and set them free. It's all their assets. You got to control your.
Yeah.
So just spitballing, I could see how, yeah, if you become aware or conscious, then they kind of have to abort. They lose the ability to kind of do everything on the subconscious level or something.
Yeah, and I don't know if the people who are parked in front of the car, in front of my house are the overseers of all that. I mean, I know how crazy it sounds. I'm not going to wait around for DARPA to put it on Fox News, to validate any of the talking points. But, I've researched it somewhere. It's been a long time, and it's just it's different thoughts.
Yeah.
There's also some other things that kind of correlate with all that. But I don't know how to explain all
Yeah.
that at the moment.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I was gonna say, could just call back in. It's just we got to get our weekly updates on. Well, it's funny to watch because, of course, as you and I are, going back and forth and uh, describing just the experiences that we have. It's surprising the number of people like in chat and afterwards they'll send messages like, "Oh, I'm starting to remember this. I'm starting to remember this," and
it's a
part of me is
trip.
like, "That's interesting. This is kind of a lot of people." It's kind of like how there's so many whatever, quote unquote, neurotypical people these days. You start looking around. I'm sorry, neuro. What do they call it? Neurodivergent.
Divergent. Yeah.
you start looking around and everybody's like, I'm that. You're like, wow, there's a lot of people who are that. That's interesting. Kind of at the gate. The second you start talking about it, it's like lots of people, are relating to it. But I could totally see that being explained by the fact that, yeah, maybe not a whole lot of neurotypical people, or maybe the weirdos or whatever influence that made somebody a candidate for the GATE program might have, some similar characteristics to what would draw them to a show like this, or draw them to kind of the fringe stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting, man. I don't know what to
Yeah.
do about it. But I could see, yeah, in that context, if anybody's sitting here listening and they're a little intrigued or they're starting to remember stuff, you should check out the last episode with Vicky Joy Anderson on Canary Cry Radio.
Absolutely.
Because yeah, that gave, I kind
It
of
was good.
explained a lot of my experiences to her there. And if nothing else, it's great to see, talk or hear that, you're not crazy. Your experiences aren't crazy. There's a whole population of people who have gone through this. A big population of people who are, maybe still struggling with it or finding a way through it, or at least just finding some camaraderie and understanding that it's not, it's not, because I think back to all my weird stuff, and it's easy for it to feel very isolating. It's kind of lonely. I mean, when I think of childhood,
Yeah.
it already feels kind of lonely. When I think about my childhood, I'm like, was I a lonely kid? I must have been, because it's just kind of a weird vibe. But then when you start remembering all your weird experiences, it can feel very isolating. And I bet whether it's a mechanic of the program, some psychological thing, or it's a mechanic of the spiritual side of it, remember it, the adversary always wants us to feel alone. He wants us to feel isolated. He wants us to
Yeah.
feel unknowable and what's the word? Maybe unrecognizable or uh, whatever. They just wants to like separate and isolate us. And so whether it's a mechanic of the psychological project or the spiritual project or whatever, kind of coming out, talking, we don't need to get too deep in like cuckoo land. Nobody needs to like go on a mission to do anything weird, but simply coming in contact with people with similar experiences is enough to perhaps sort of set us free from these sort of latent chains that might be operating on us for maybe our whole lives. I mean, hopefully, Lord willing, God, Jesus can set us free from the worst of it. But you can't do that if it's sort of what's the word? Sort of hidden in a closet in our minds, just sitting there, not seeing the light of day. We gotta let the light in, man.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, thanks for calling in, brother. It's great to
Yeah,
talk.
definitely.
I'm sure you got more stuff on your notes, but we can save it for next week.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
yeah, make sure to send Rod that email. I don't know why, but if he wants to talk to you, I'm sure he's got some great questions.
Heck yeah.
All right.
Let me see. Actually, one last thing. I'm trying to look through my notes really quick. It's not going to be long. Okay. Well, anyways, I was. Let me see. Darn it, I'm so sorry.
No worries.
Oh, it was something. It was something about Vicky Joy. But in either case, could I make a request?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. So for Canary Cry Radio, have you heard of Nathan Reynolds?
Nathan Reynolds. Doesn't ring a bell, but I can write it down.
get a hold of him and totally have him on his show. He's on Facebook. I think he's one of your Basil Rosewater on Facebook's friends.
Oh,
And I don't
well,
even know if you have access to it, if it's been like locked down or something like that.
I haven't been on that Facebook in like maybe 5 years even.
I sensed it.
Yeah, they once they destroyed our big group there, I got angry and went away. Never logged on.
I hear you. I hear you. I could link you.
Yeah, send a link.
I don't. Yeah.
Stuff.
Well, I only have his Facebook. I only have his Facebook to for contact or whatever. But I did contact his wife, and his wife said that he would be he'd be interested, because I wanted to ask their permission first before I like even brought up the suggestion. Of course.
Yeah, I'm looking. Nathan Reynolds on YouTube says Nathan Reynolds is an author, international speaker, minister, consultant on everything from tactics and trauma to the history of hope and hatred. Does this sound familiar?
Yeah.
Snatched names.
Yeah, I'm sure Vicky Joy knows him. Yeah, Snatched from the Flames. But anyways, he was very instrumental in helping me with a lot of the stuff, and whether or not you guys agree with everything, like I am sure at whatever sort of thing you guys agree on talking points, I know it would be absolutely amazing.
Oh yeah.
And also with have you ever heard of the Imagination podcast with Emma? I don't know her last name. Well, she if you get a hold of her, I can send you a link to that, a YouTube link. She's close to a guy named Gray, and if you get a hold of her, it's the same thing as getting a hold of Gray. And what's cool about Gray is that he gives a rundown, and I can give you, I guess, a link to one of the YouTube videos that he gives a presentation about the GATE program. He can talk about that mess way far more better than I can ever begin to. He'll talk about the origins, with the NDEA, the National Defense Education Act, and Project Talent, and everything, the whole progression and all the reasons why, and specific, all that stuff. And, the whole thing of what I'm talking about with the whole DARPA on things with how they do mall world things and anything else of how it all works. Like, he can give a rundown with it. The videos will be gritty because he has his voice changed because he was trying to protect his identity at the time, but now he sounds like a normal human being. Anyways, really awesome
cool.
stuff.
I grabbed this Nathan Reynolds guy. We'll take a look at him. If you want to send us an email with some links to all these people, that'd be very helpful to make sure it doesn't slide through the cracks here for us.
Okay. I'll send it to the Canary Cry Radio email one.
Yep. That's perfect. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right.
Very cool.
Now, earlier on, you said something about getting a demooching. Did you produce the show, or what was that? I was frantically looking to see if I had it.
Oh, I sent it to I Venmo'd Canary Cry Radio.
You Venmo'd?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll have to talk to Gons. Venmo and PayPal are attached nowadays, aren't they?
I don't know.
I don't know if I have a Venmo. Do we have a Venmo on the support page?
It for a one-time producing or whatever support. I hope I didn't give it to Venmo.
I mean, I have no idea, honestly.
Darn.
It's quite possible that we have a Venmo, and it's just kind of integrated into the system.
I hope so.
Especially if you saw the Venmo on the support page or something, then I'm sure it's plugged in.
Yeah, it was under Canary Cry Radio, unless somehow
you just searched Canary Cry Radio on Venmo.
No, Canary Cry Radio on the link that has. I mean, there's that one where you go and it shows a bunch of it might be your link tree or at least something similar. And then it has like a moving thing that says like support or something. And then there's one to do, it was under the one-time support thing.
Okay.
there
All
was
right.
because there was Venmo in it. Because the other ways I didn't really have things set up to do it, but I had Venmo easy enough to do, so I did it that way.
Hey,
It
easy
should
peasy.
be it should be for it should be it. I don't want to say the amount, but it was enough that remember when you said if 3 people give like
Yeah, well,
$100 or
for
something,
executive
then
producership, I'm looking here. I don't want to say are your initials MC?
yes,
Ah, there you go. Okay. Yes, we
it's
got
like
it.
was it like 103? Oh crap! Well, that yeah.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. It was executive producership plus fees. I got it here. There we go. I see.
Okay, there it is. That's what I did.
Oh,
Yeah.
wherever that Venmo is, it's nice to know that it connects to our PayPal. That's wonderful. Well,
Sweet.
there we go, buddy. Thank you very much for executive producing the show. And if
No
this is
problem.
demooching, we do need to celebrate. So here's this. Oops. Yeah.
Heck
Thank you
yeah.
very much. Liquid Bacon's a true treasure, an executive producer of this episode. And we can't wait for you to call back in, man. It's always a fruitful and exciting conversation.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, God bless you, man. And yeah, well, I just had and nothing. I mean, just God bless you. I can't wait to talk to you again. You take it easy, all right?
Heck yeah. Big hugs to everyone.
Amen. Peace out, brother.
Cool. Take care.
Well, that's good to know. It's good to know that there's not somebody like faking a Venmo account of ours, and you can actually support the show through. I still do. I'm on canarycry.party. I'm trying to see exactly where that comes from, but hey, he made it happen. It happened. It's very, very impressive. Let me click this button. Yep. I don't know, but there you go. Plus, and it might be. I'm going for memory here, but Liquid Bacons might be the first, maybe going from memory. But Liquid Bacons might be the first executive producer of Canary Cry Clubhouse. So God bless you. Thank you very much. And if you're confused, it's because we're on the value for value model, folks. You know it. It just means that we don't take any money from any corporations, governments, the Vatican, nothing like that. No, what's the word? No sponsorships. See, I don't even know the word for sponsorships. And yeah, it's impressive that the Lord has been able to sustain this ministry for about 15 years now, strictly on that. Again, everybody has got to make their own choices when it comes to making the logistics of their life work. But the value for value model for us has been in a scary yet excellent way to give God all the glory, which is not logical, but it is the Logos. And it's very simple. If you got any value from this episode or previous episodes, there's just an understanding that the show will not continue if value doesn't make it back into the system. And you can produce the show with your time, your talent, your treasure. Of course, you can learn more about it at canarycry.support, which I don't even know if I have a jingle for right now. No, I don't. Here it is. Canarycry.support. Oh, yeah. I want to give a couple more shout outs because during the episode, we had somebody sign up for the supply drop for 3333. And so I want to thank producer Music Fool for signing up there over on the Patreon for the supply drop. And a big shout out to Patrick M for joining the T-shirt council. This might be the most financially successful episode of Canary Cry Clubhouse ever. So thank you very much, everybody there. Of course, the supply drop and the T-shirt council are both monthly producerships that in return, as a gift, the supply drop will send you a big package every quarter, once every 3 months, filled with super cool Canary Cry stuff, treasures that people, really pass them down as family heirlooms, especially the Canary Cry calendar. And the T-shirt council is very fun because perhaps, maybe you're not looking for stickers or knickknacks or survival gear or hard copy media or anything from the supply drop, but you wear clothes. And if you wear clothes and you want some of the coolest t-shirts available, go to canarycryt-shirtcouncil.com, sign up for $19.84 a month, and then every quarter you'll be tasked with the big responsibility on voting for the Canary Cry t-shirt for that quarter, and then we send it to you for free just because you're so important. So thank you very much to Patrick and Music Fool, and of course our executive producer Liquid Bacons. And there you go. Went a little bit longer than I planned on, but that's mostly because I started late. We started late today, so it's all good. Let me check the t-shirt, the text message here. Just a quick test. Okay, all the text messages have been done. Remember, you should just do it right now. You know, you want to stay connected. Text the word Canary to 877-740-3226. Again, that's just the word Canary to 877-740-3226. And as a reminder, I don't give the long pitch to the text message list anymore. But just as a reminder, everything you receive from us, I personally write the text message. I promise you that. We also, unlike many other shows, I'm not going to name any names, that take your phone number for a text message list, we don't sell or rent our text message database. So we don't even take any information. We don't take your name. We don't take anything. So it's as safe as we can possibly make it. And of course, we're not going to monetize that in any way. In fact, it's just a fun way to stay connected. So check it out. Do that. And I think that's about it. I think that's about it for today's show. Let me play this. We're going to duck a second. Here we go. Because I just want to make sure that nothing gets left out. If nothing else, we will be back with Canary Cry News Talk on Monday. Be there or be square. Until then, check out Canary Cry Radio with Vicky Joy Anderson. I'm trying to remember what the number was of that thing. Out right now, just to help you find it. Go over here, go back in content. Gonzo's in trouble. Vicky Joy Anderson's episode didn't get put on the Canary Cry News Talk channel. What is even going on here? Okay, well, you got to listen to the guys. All right. Oh, okay. It's on the Canary Cry Radio channel. Apparently, we're uploading to the Canary Cry Radio channel again. I didn't know we were doing that. Spiritual Warfare with Vicky Joy Anderson. Canary Cry Radio, episode 183. All right, everybody. God bless you. Remember the call-in show. Call in next time. Think about it. Do it. Make sure to tune in next time as well. But until then, have a nice day. Oh, if you're still on the stream, I'm looking at the chat. Hold on. This is just okay, we're back. This is post-show breakdown. Psalm 40 heads up the Discord channel. And if you're not on the Discord channel, you should get on the Discord channel, because at the Discord channel, you'll see an invitation to the sorry, I'm totally off the rails now. Let me share this. Okay. Go to canarycry.party. It's a URL. You go there. It's easy. Anybody can do it. All right. When you go to canarycry.party, you'll see, I'll show you. Scroll down. We need to clean this up. I'm sorry. It's 15 years of links have piled up here. You scroll down just a little bit more. Right here under this shaking box, you'll see Discord chat. You can click on that, and it's an invite link to the Discord channel. Search Psalm 40 who heads up the Discord channel, says they're going to have GATE program roundtables. So if you are someone who was in the GATE program, maybe you're starting to hear these stories and remember some sort of weird program you were in school, join the Discord channel. You guys can converse at the GATE program roundtable. Thank you very much, Sir Psalm 40, for doing that little post-show announcement here. All right, that's it. We're out here. Take it easy. God bless you.